was actually thinking about this the other day. I don't know if you've ever seen these on Twitter. They'll go and interview women. Yeah, they're like 400 pounds, and it's just like, oh well, how much would a guy have to, and she's like, oh well, he'd have to be 6'5", he'd have to make 500 grand a year. Everybody thinks they're something that they're not.
Welcome everyone, I'm Pat Mitchell. Joining me is Adam and Jen. We're going to be talking about 4 powerful words, and this is going to be a great discussion for people. I think it's going to put a lot of things into perspective that maybe people don't think about on a daily basis, but it really is like the key to success. But I think the most important thing is advice, right? That's why people are probably watching this or other videos that I've done or other videos that other people have done. They are looking for advice, and advice is everywhere, right? And I think that it's something that people kind of almost take for granted, and they think that they can receive that advice anywhere. And it's kind of a two-way street. So we're going to talk about the people that are giving the advice and the people that are receiving the advice. So I think we'll just kind of like jump right in it, and we'll just kind of get some thoughts out. And then Jen's got a story that I think you guys will find really interesting. And I think that the biggest part for me about advice is I try not to give it out too much anymore. I know it seems like it, that I'm always doing videos like this and people can see and hear advice, but I'm saying on a personal level, one of the reasons for that is I don't want to waste my time on people that don't want to listen to advice, right? Like I'm sure we all have, I'm sure there's a few of you out there that you have a friend and you're constantly giving advice to them, they don't listen. Well, at some point you'll stop giving them advice. Why? Because they don't listen. And it's kind of a big deal, right? And I think that there's a lot of situations that people can also get themselves into on the flip side, where they're asking for advice from people that probably shouldn't be giving it. And it's something that I see actually quite often on comments in my YouTube videos, or even a video on Twitter or X, where I see people, they'll disagree with the advice that I'm giving them. And it's like, why are you disagreeing with that? Like, where are you in life where you think that your advice would be more valid? You're almost just talking for the sake of talking. Do you understand what I'm getting at? Like, where people are just like the internet is giving people the ability to just have a voice. And although I agree and support free speech, there's just some people that should probably just shut the fuck up and just listen instead of giving that advice. A good example of this is yesterday I put out just a little clip like I always do on X. And it had to do with having your emotions under control as a trader. And if you don't have your emotions under control as a trader, you will not make it long-term. You may have short-term success. You're not going to have long-term success. It's impossible. And then somebody underneath ended up writing a comment, and basically this long drawn-out comment, and something to the effect of, you're wrong. It's not your emotions under control. You can still have your emotions under control, but you can still take a losing trade. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's got like nothing to do with what I'm talking about. You're agreeing and disagreeing at the same time. It's like, it's just like zip it. Either your reading comprehension or listening comprehension skills are lacking, and it's of a fucking 6-year-old, or you should just really not be in the position to be giving advice. When you see someone with an avatar with like cartoons, and they are probably an adult, it's probably a pretty good indicator that you don't want to take advice from them. That would just be my first impression. I know for me, I have a lot of friends that are out there that live everywhere. Some are wildly successful, and I've talked about them before and given you guys some stories about that. And the one thing that I will say is with those people, when I actually do ask for advice, I'm all ears. If they give me advice and I'm going to them, I am going to listen. I will execute that advice no matter what that advice is. Why? Because I respect them and I see where their life is, where they're at in life, and the levels of life that they've achieved. So I know they won't steer me wrong because number one, I trust them. They wouldn't do that. Number two, I respect what they say. So, like I said, we're going to get into a lot of things in this episode. What spawned this, now to hand it over to Jen. Jen, maybe if you could explain to people why this episode is coming up and why we're talking about, receiving advice, listening to advice, asking for advice.
Sure. Basically, what happened is, Adam and I kind of in our past before we really, got our act together and made a plan, got out of debt and everything. We had a very, very expensive truck. It was a 3,500 dually that we sold. We, sold it at actually a great price. We top ticked it when the market was at its high, but we bought a 2009 Hyundai Sonata. So just like a tiny car. When we live on a homestead, it's kind of rough. You're throwing, feed in the back and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of hard. And I could just really feel like it was starting to get at its end of life. It's kind of starting to fall apart. So in the past, Adam and I would, if we were making like a decision like that, we would hide it from other people. Mm-hmm. Like we would, and then we would just show up with like this brand new truck, like, hey, check this out, because we knew that our family would be like, what the hell are you doing?
Or the time
exactly.
we moved to Miami Beach.
Yeah. We totally
knew everyone would disapprove of it, and we went and did it anyways. And it was one of the worst mistakes we ever made in our life because we didn't want to hear.
Yeah, it was a financial disaster.
We just wanted that fancy life, Miami Beach lifestyle, and didn't want any advice on what our friends and family would have thought, because we all knew they would have told us you're crazy, that's stupid. Yeah. And it was.
So we just didn't tell anybody. So I have learned that, if I'm going to make a decision, it's important that I make sure, I can, if I don't feel comfortable telling my family about it, that hey, we're thinking about getting a new car, yada, yada. But with regards to asking people for advice and who to ask for it, I chose to talk to Chrissy about it because, obviously, I look up to you guys. I had met with Chrissy about, during Polaris and so forth. So I decided to reach out to her and just say, hey, can you help me here? I want to make sure I'm not making a stupid decision. Mm-hmm. Am I just getting sick of driving this little 2009 car? So I'm creating this mm-hmm. situation where I'm seeing it fall apart mm-hmm. and, or is it just fine? Do I have a valid reason of, oh, well, we're constantly, with the homestead stuff, we spilled diesel in the back, the other day and blah, blah, blah. Am I just creating a problem in my mind just so I have an excuse to mm-hmm. go buy a new car? So, I wanted to meet with her and see what she thought about that. If she sniffed out any bullshit there from me, because I certainly mm-hmm. don't want to do that. And then just really sit down with her, show her what we were looking at. We initially, she did agree that, it's probably time to let that bird fly with the, it's a 15-year-old car. It honestly was starting to fall apart. But so I wanted to make sure of that. And I also wanted to not get us in any financial, because when we first bought that truck, our payment was $875 a month. And it was a huge pinch on us financially. It was really hard for me a lot of times to make those payments. And I certainly didn't want to do anything stupid like that again. We felt like we really needed a truck, but as you know, trucks are absolutely ridiculous now.
The price of a truck, even bare bones right now, like what did you say, 52 grand? And that's easy, bare bones. There's no bells and whistles. It's just a truck. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it honestly is. And so I wanted to talk to her about that and see what her thoughts were there. And then she suggested maybe going with an SUV instead, because it still had more cargo space. So we're on a Zoom together. So we're just both kind of going back and forth. And, it's like, what about this? What about this payment? I sent her one of the credit unions that we were looking at, and she starts running through all these payment scenarios. And she's like, okay, can you do this down? Can you do this down? So she really helped me walk through it. And I obviously took notes and everything. And then yesterday we went to the dealer and, I made sure I followed everything she said. because, like I said, I don't want to put us in a bad situation. Adam
No.
certainly doesn't want that for us again, because it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And we've been doing so well, and we're completely debt free. It's killing me to have a car payment, but hopefully we can, knock that out. But it is like, I went to Chrissy because I knew that she would give me the best advice out of everyone that I know. So why would I be stupid and not follow that?
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to like do this episode is so at like face value listening to this, you might just be like, "Oh, okay, so she listened to someone's advice." It's way deeper than that. What like for the people watching this, how many times have you asked advice and you followed it maybe 50% of that advice? You picked and chose the things that you wanted to do out of that advice and then threw away the rest. And I would probably say 95% of you watching, if you were to answer that, probably more than 95%. If you were to answer that question honestly, you would say, yeah, I did that, right? I think a lot of people do that. But what the importance to this is, and for those of you that don't know what Polaris is, Jen mentioned that. So it's a budgeting program that we provide, and Chrissy handles that. So I owe a lot to where I am and where we are today because of Chrissy. Like, I'm not the greatest with money. She's really good at that shit. She can find money where there is no money. And we didn't have any money. So we really needed to make like solid decisions or we would have been fucked. So I owe almost everything to Chrissy, right? So that's what Polaris is. She kind of is budgeting or helping people budget to become full-time traders, right? So that's originally, and I'm not saying, I'm not taking all the credit for Adam and Jen's hard work. I'm just saying that they listened to that original advice and it got them out of the big fucking hole that they were in. Like Adam's talked about this before, whether it was Ascension or one of our other podcasts, Fallout Shelter. It's a great episode. And we were talking about money and everything else. And Adam really went deep and he told a lot of stuff and he was honest about it that a lot of people wouldn't. So what I'm getting at with this now is Jen asked for advice and didn't just follow it halfway, didn't follow it 3/4 of the way. Like they followed it 100%. She did exactly what Chrissy suggested to do, what would be like the best way. And that's rare. It's so fucking rare for people when you give them advice to actually follow through with it and follow it 100%. Again, it boils down to who are you asking advice from? Like there's a lot of situations, and I can think of when I was younger where I asked for advice. I was in a jam and I asked people, man, these guys are fucking worse off than I am. So why would I ask them for advice? Do you understand? Like how crazy is that? And I'm sure there's a lot of people, maybe you don't necessarily have anyone in your life that has found success, but I'm sure you know at least one responsible person, right? Or more responsible than you, I guess is what I'm saying. If you're kind of really rough and you're really struggling, that's who you need to go and ask, because obviously they've figured things out that you haven't, right? That's kind of what I'm getting at. And then it boils down to, are you worthy to receive that? Are you worthy to receive that advice and be around? Now we're talking about people that have really found like a certain level of success. And then there's levels to that shit too, right? Where are you worthy of that advice? Are you worthy of that person's advice? Because I'm telling you right now, anyone that has found true success, like actual like success or wild success, they will not waste their time with people like at all. Time's important. Time's super important to successful people because they understand how valuable time is. Like people that are successful are fucking busy. So if you're going to take their time and they're going to actually talk to you, you better fucking listen. Because if you don't listen, they're never going to waste their time on you again. And now you are basically throwing away a valuable asset, because that's what that is. Receiving advice from someone that knows the ins and outs of money or has navigated life in a certain way where their decisions have ultimately led to a road where 1% of people on the planet get to live, don't waste their time, because what they're telling you, that's like a cheat code, right? And that's something that's never lost on me. If I ever, and it's rare too when I ask for advice. That's another thing too. I think a lot of people, no matter what comes up, they don't want to fucking figure shit out on their own. So they're constantly asking people for advice. We all have that friend too, right? Where it's like on fucking everything. Like they don't know what to have for lunch. They don't know whether they should stay with their boyfriend or girlfriend. Like what color shoes should they buy? Like everything. It's a fucking waste of time. It's a nightmare dealing with those people because it's crazy. It's like it's just frivolous stuff that doesn't mean anything. So it's almost like the boy who cried wolf. It's like that story almost. So if you're going to come to people, it's almost like pick your battles wisely, right? Like you can't be bothering people with your nonsense all the time. So when that person does ask you, you know, it's like, okay, I know that this person they've exhausted all resources. They've done everything that they can. I will help them because I know that person isn't going to waste my time. He or she does not ask me on a regular basis for advice. Not that you can't as a friend, but I'm just saying. So if they are asking for advice, you know they're in trouble, right? So that person is more inclined to actually respond to that advice. And that's how it is with me. There's very few people on the planet that I would ever ask for advice from. And when I do ask, they are well aware that I am stuck. I'm stuck. I don't know what to do in this situation. So if I ask for advice, they're going to answer it. And not to ramble too much here, I've got a story about this that just clicked in my head. And like I just said, I don't ask for advice often. So when I do, I'm stuck. Like I'm fucking stuck. I need that response. I need that advice. And this was the lockdowns. So after the lockdowns, remember, I'm down here in Costa Rica. I haven't seen my family in a fucking year. I'm in San Jose, Costa Rica, because that was the only airport that was flying out. And that's way further away. It's about a 4-hour drive instead of an hour and a half drive from the other airport. So I'm there. I'm staying overnight in a hotel before I go fly out. And remember, this is right as soon as they just opened everything up. It was dicey. For those of you goldfish out there that don't fucking remember how horrible and the shit that they put us through. So I'm in a hotel. Chrissy's there with me. I'm going by myself and I'm flying back to Canada. And I'm full of anxiety. I don't like it. I don't want to get stuck up there. And there's a lot of thoughts going through my head at that time where it's like, I don't like this. None of this is right. This feels very off. And I'm sure there's a lot of you out there watching that would agree. So I'm trying to set the tone here. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should get on the plane or not. Chrissy's telling me, whatever you decide, I'm good. If you go, you go. If you stay, you stay. Like she just wanted to leave it up to me. She didn't know what the fuck to do either, to be honest, in that time. Hadn't seen my son in a fucking year. It was horrible. But I phoned one of my friends, Garth. Garth isn't just a friend. He was my grade 10 English teacher. And he was something that had a really dramatic effect on my life. And we've always been friends, right? And he was actually the first person that signed off on my truck loan because the truck loan was ridiculous and I needed it for work. And so that's the type of friend he is. And I phoned him and I told him, I'm like, look, Garth, I'm fucking stuck, dude. I don't know what to do. Remember the time that this was. And I'm desperate for advice. Like, I do not know what to do. I cannot stress that enough. And he started going off on a rant about fucking Donald Trump. Didn't give advice. He's a fucking anti-Trumper. Hates Trump so much. He's so blinded by his fucking ignorant hate that the one friend, because he doesn't have a lot of friends, the one friend on the planet that is coming to him for advice and needs it, he is stuck, That's the shit he pulls. So hung up the phone, haven't talked to him since. And that's a story of asking someone, the wrong person, for advice. Now, the issue is there's some people out there like Garth that I didn't realize how much he had changed. And I didn't realize that he turned into a person I couldn't trust for advice. Sometimes that's going to happen. That's kind of the moral of this story. Sometimes you are going to ask who you perceive as someone that you can lean on and count on for advice, and you're going to get fucked. Now, I know a lot of you might be saying, well, how did he fuck you? You need to put yourself into my situation at that time. The desperation for someone just to fucking help me process this, that he reverts to some like anti-Donald Trump speech where it's like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? It's like, here I am pouring my heart out to you. It boils down to who do you ask for advice? So what kind of qualities, maybe I'll turn this over to Adam. What kind of qualities do you look for in a person that you would personally turn to for advice to maybe help some people that maybe don't really know, instead of me just yapping here?
I think it comes down to a level, it starts with some discernment where you need to be able to admire the right people to start with. What are the values that they hold high? You know, it's easy to pick someone just based because they have money.
Yes.
And money should not be the sole factor. No. And because there's plenty of people who have money who aren't people you want to have advice from. So it's a matter of having taken the time to invest in a relationship to begin with. You don't just wake up and pull up a phone number and go to a person for advice. It's like, you have to be somebody who is working on their own value of a human being and who is seeking honesty and truth, because then you're going to have the lens to see other people in this world who also value honesty and truth. And if we're spending our time lying to ourselves and inventing stories, then it's almost like what I've learned in this journey is you actually put like a broken lens in front of your eyes, and it clouds your ability to spot in a crowd, the crowd of life, the crowd of interactions of people we meet, we have opportunities to converse with. If we're lying to ourselves, if we're not listening, if we're not paying attention, if we're consumed by things that distract our attention and our body from being healthy, you're not going to be able to spot the Pat Mitchells of the world. They'll disappear. They fall out of your field of vision. And then you find the Garths of the world, yep, because they match.
Or even worse. Or even worse.
Yeah, no, just people. Yeah, that might not have been the right example.
No, but yeah,
you're going to pair up with the people that you are. I don't know if that makes sense. You're gonna match those people, and so no matter how hard you try to find that advice, you're going to get advice from someone who is living their life like you. And if you're drinking a lot, if you're spending a lot of time on TV, if you are not taking care of your body, you're going to see the people that have those same habits as the people that you want to respect and be like. And it'll be very difficult to find the right person. So to answer your question, it comes back with the first question is, are you really working on yourself? Are you really trying to peel back your own lies and doing the work to come out of this cloud of deception that so many of us who are struggling financially, it comes down to we're struggling with lies in our life. So you got to be peeling that stuff away. And as you're peeling that away, the right people will start to appear in your life because you can see them with your mind's eye. I hope that makes sense. So those qualities that you're looking for in someone like Pat, who is successful, who's trustworthy, who listens, and who has done the work on themselves, you'll find those people in your life because you're doing the work on yourself. You're going to share the same values. So when you talk to that person, the truth of what you are interested in, the truth of how you spend your time, the truth of what you care about will just reveal itself naturally. And for the people who want to shortcut this, you're going to be pretending that you're an honest person. You're going to be pretending that you work out and you get exercise. You're going to be pretending that you show up ready for work early every day.
Yeah.
And the people who actually do it genuinely, they will sniff you out so fast.
There's no, and that's
And they
a
have
real.
to. They have to protect themselves.
Yes.
Because there are leeches everywhere. There are pretenders everywhere. So don't be a pretender, right? Don't be fake, because you just can't fake out an honest person. They have a lens of clarity that unless you earn that lens and put in the work, there's no camouflage you can wear to hide from an honest person. So start there. There's so much to unpack there. I hope that gives some kind of clarity where you have to start.
Well, yeah, I mean, what Adam just said there is, there's a lot there. I think that the point that I really want to hit, where I wanted to just was where Adam's talking about, like, you can't fake it and you can't lie to those people. I see people lie to me all the time, and we've talked about this before on other episodes, where you don't understand, like, people like me, people that are, that go for the truth, that work on themselves, you will never, there's nothing you could ever tell me, a lie, that I wouldn't sniff out. And that's what you have to understand. People like that are dishonest, you'll never get away with that lie. Like, lots of people maybe in your life out there, for people watching, they may just, like, they know you're lying. Like, most people know you're lying, right? But they'll never call you on that. Well, if you're lying and someone doesn't call you on it, those aren't people worthy of your time. Now, you haven't proven anything to be worthy of anyone else of substance, their time. But what I'm saying is, if you are full of shit, you will never be worthy of somebody of substance there that actually have something to offer you. They will never give you their time. They will sniff you out so fucking fast, it'll make your head spin. Like, there's a guy actually right now that we're attached to that, on a personal level, I'm not going to go into too much detail, because I'll handle this in my own way. But what he's doing right now is he's lying. And I've called him out a few times where it's like, no, just stop, right? What you're doing now is you're full of shit, right? But it's everything. And it's the way he tries to navigate these lies. It's fucking hilarious. People like that think that the ones that they're talking to are like, do you think I'm a child? Like, I see you for who you are. And it's like, now there is no trust. I would never hire you again. I wouldn't fucking give you a sandwich in the street if you were starving. Like, people like that, I have no time for. And now it's just a matter of time before it all unravels in his face. And that's what people don't understand. You're not fooling anyone. And to talk about more about, the people that, Adam would ask for advice, as well as him working, like, people need to work on themselves. Yeah, I will not waste my breath on people that aren't working on themselves, because they don't want the fucking truth. How many times have you seen people ask for advice, or maybe you've been asked for advice, where, and maybe some of you that are watching this do have your shit together, right? And somebody comes to you for advice and you don't even want to respond. Why? Because this person doesn't want the truth. What they want is someone to lie to them to make themselves feel better. And that's the one thing to remember. When you go to someone that actually has something to offer you, where what they say can really point you in the right direction, they're not going to sugarcoat it, man. There is no sugarcoating advice. Advice is advice. Sometimes truth hits hard, where it's like, man, I wasn't expecting that. It is what it is. Fucking suck it up, swallow it, because that's all there is to do in that situation. And if somebody is going to lie to you, like I pointed out a million times, a lot of these service operators in the day trading world. And this is where I catch a lot of shit, because if you read any of my reviews on Trustpilot, Any of the 1-star reviews I always get a kick out of them. They always start out the same way. He knows what he's doing. His strategy works. He can teach you, but
Yeah.
he's an asshole. He's a jerk. He's mean. He didn't answer my questions. Where you need to look at that. Anyone with half a brain reading those will pick out, well, there's two sides to every story. Do I strike you as someone that is just going to jump down your throat for absolutely no reason whatsoever? Of course not. I would never do that. I'm not someone that instigates. I'm someone that finishes. If you're going to come to me and you're going to bullshit me, you're going to lie to me, I'm going to call you on it and I'm going to jump down your fucking throat. As anybody should, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you are someone with honor and integrity, truth matters. So those are attributes and qualities that you really need to look for in a person that you're asking for advice. But it starts with you, right? Like that's what it all boils down to. It really starts with the person. It starts with you. That person giving you that advice will never waste their breath and they will fucking sniff you out. So don't even try. Just be honest. I don't know why it's so difficult for people to be honest nowadays. And I'm seeing a really alarming trend where it's becoming more and more difficult for people to just be honest and tell the truth. Why is that? It's weird, isn't it? Like it really is. Like it's fucking strange.
Well, I think it comes down to, and it's just part of our society, this whole you want things that you haven't earned the right to have. And that's where I think the root of this dishonesty is. It's like, I don't have the patience. I don't have the discipline. I want my rewards. I want to have the fruit of my garden, but I don't have to go through the labor to plant and nurture my garden. Yeah. Right. You just want to cut right to it. And so, I want to just get around all this. And that requires, when you cheat yourself, it just comes down to cheating and lying, because I'm going to figure out a way to get around this. And I'm going to take my fruit, and I'm not going to have to put up with all of the labor that I need to do to earn that fruit. So it comes down to just this, you said it here a couple times, is, are you worthy? Yeah. Are you worthy of the fruit that we want in life? Are you worthy of the advice of other people to get that fruit? Interestingly enough, we just want to shortcut everything.
Well, and I think a lot of that, I was actually thinking about this the other day. I don't know if you've ever seen these on Twitter where they'll go and interview women, about like, oh, well, how much would a guy have to make? And it's like, are you freaking kidding me?
It's gross.
They're like 400 pounds and, it's just like, and she's like, oh, well, he'd have to be 6'5", he'd have to make 500 grand a year. And, it's like everybody, I feel like social media and Instagram, it's like everybody thinks they're something that they're not. No. And it's just created this massive delusion where people, oh, well, I'm this online, so therefore I'm that, or whatever. Or they just think, every girl now thinks they're some Instagram model or whatever, even though they're obviously not, and I think it's created a large break in our society because they're, this is a total sidebar, but I mean, I really feel like that's why people are so comfortable lying, because everything is a lie. I mean, like you were saying, people can say whatever they want online. Yep. And I think it's just, people pick fights with people they wouldn't pick online. People say things they wouldn't say to each other's faces. And, so therefore it just opens up this big delusion. So I feel like that's why people lie to, who they are, what they are. And I think that just becomes part of them. So I think that's why it's becoming such a problem. And just honestly, the breakdown of, our morality is, nobody, I mean, like, I'm from old Texas, where if you shook somebody's hand and made a deal, that was the deal, right? Yeah. And that's how people would operate. You can't do stuff like that anymore, and I think, it just, our morality is just getting worse and worse and worse. And so I think that's kind of goes hand in hand with, people will just lie and not think anything of it, because that's just how life is, or that's how society has become, which is, I've always tried to, I would see that growing up, and I'm like, that's the type of person that I want to be. I want to be somebody that's, would people would shake their hand and just be like, okay, I know you're good for it, or whatever. So
Yep.
I think that that's part of it as well.
Down here in Costa Rica, we have a good name when it comes to business. And we've only been here 5 years. The first time that happened, where something happened, where I was given something without paying for it, and we're not talking a small purchase, I could drive it right off the lot without giving even as much as my driver's license, nothing. Just, I know you're good for it, you'll send the wire. So that was the Porsche. And then the Ferrari was the same. The Ferrari was shipped to my house without fucking paying for it. And what I'm trying to give is like a value to it, right? Like people always take, when I talk about cars or shit like that, they take that way out of it. They fucking want to jump down the guy's throat. At the end of the day, you're dealing with someone right now that's talking to you that these businesses are reputable businesses. I've done no business with them before, but they know my reputation, and they ship something worth hundreds of thousands of fucking dollars without even paying for it. By the time the wire actually hit, I'd probably already put on 100 miles. Do you understand? And that's where you want to get to in life. You want to get to a point where your word is gold, because that opens up a lot of doors for you. Why? Because you can be trusted.
Yeah.
You're an honorable person. Not honorable for only your sake. You're just honorable. Not short-term honor. Honor forever. You will starve before you break your fucking word. Now, I've been in lots of situations, even with trick trades on the business end, where I held up a deal where I knew I was still getting fucked, because I will not be the one to break my word. I just won't. I won't do it. Even when I should have, I won't.
Right.
And it's like, that's why I find it laughable and hilarious when you see these people that lash out because there's no consequences for their actions or their words on social media, where you'll have people, it's just like, oh, he's a day trading scheme. It's like, so what do you have to go by on that? Like, what are you talking about? It's like, you have no idea my reputation. Even on a personal level, you obviously don't. So it's like, what are you talking about? So that's a reflection of you. That's what that is, right? Like, oh, you're someone that would defraud someone. That's why you're saying that.
Yeah, like, why would that thought even be in your head, right? Unless you're somebody that would do something like that.
You've never been in my service. You've never dealt with me on a one-to-one basis. Instead of doing that, why wouldn't you just hit me up? Like I've said 1,000 times. If you've got any questions, ask me in DM. I'll answer them. If you're worthy of my time, I will answer you. And I always answer that first question. And then if you're a time waster, I will no longer answer those questions. But if you are genuine and honest in your approach, where it's not like a dishonest question, where it's like you're just like trying to sniff for answers or something like that, you're trying to sniff something out. If you're genuine, I'll always answer those questions. Always. I've got nothing to hide. But that's what I'm trying to get at. It's like, if you're an honorable person, it opens up doors in life. And that's not even the reason why you do it originally. But it does. It opens up doors in life that you couldn't imagine.
Exactly.
Like,
oh man,
16-year-old.
So rare.
It allows miracles to happen.
Yeah.
You could classify them as miracles. Moments, events line up in ways no amount of planning, no amount of praying, no amount of crystal ball, whatever. Things happen that you can't possibly imagine when you follow those things Pat's just talking about. That's the miracle of all of this, is the next day, the next corner, the next person you meet. Your life can change on a dime just because of the things that Pat's talking about.
That is 100% true.
Oh, 100%, man. And if people just worked on themselves, right? And like really dug deep and looked at themselves in a mirror and confronted themselves, looking at themselves in the mirror and saying, I'm a dishonest, untrustworthy prick is what I am. And you confronted that and you started making changes, it's never too late to change your reputation. Your reputation means a lot, guys. And that's just like fun things that I've bought, right? I've done business deals with a handshake because that's all that's needed. That's all that's necessary, right? For me, if you need fucking contracts and all that shit, like, but that's a crazy thing. It's so people say, well, won't you get fucked? Well, no, I don't deal with people that are dishonest and dishonorable. And it's like, well, how do you know? No, you know. That's what you don't understand is an honest and someone with honor and integrity will always know, always. And yeah, there's going to be a few people that'll slip through the cracks, but there's always a thought in the back of that person's mind that it's like, I'm not going to give them 100% of my trust. Like I wouldn't give them a pin to my bank card. Like obviously you wouldn't do that, but you understand with what I'm saying? Like you will always hold back with those types of people because there's a whiff there. Can't quite put your finger on it, but it's there, right? So those ones I would never do fucking big business with. I would never do that, right? Because you're exposed. But the people that you can do business with, and when I do, and it is a handshake, there's no contracts, it's just a fucking verbal, right? It's like, no, you do your end, I'll do mine. Why? How do I know you're going to do your end? Because I know you're a man of honor. That's how I know. You would rather fucking starve your goddamn family than ever break your fucking word. And I've talked about that a lot, where I put myself in situations where it's like, I'm fucked, which now in turn, that means my family is fucked. This is years ago, but it doesn't matter. There's no going back. I need to honor that. And if you won't go to those lengths, then your word means shit. And you're not worthy of someone that can give you legitimate advice that can get you out of a jam. You're not worthy of their advice. So again, it takes a lot of self-work and self-reflection, and people need to work on themselves. All the stuff that we've been fucking talking about on almost every single one of these videos. And for the ones that actually watch this stuff, it's like, yes, it can be a little bit of a dry conversation. I understand that. But this type of information and knowledge, it's like, you can't just pick up a fucking book, man. You got to talk to real people. How can that person, like if a person doesn't understand or like where to start, what would you say is an attribute of that person that needs to, or a characteristic of a person that needs to happen? Like I think, and I know you pointed this out in the pre-recording about acceptance and being obedient. A lot of people have problems with the word being obedient and submissive, but you have to. There's some times where, and I'm not an obedient or submissive person at all, but at certain situations, I will absolutely submit because I need that advice, right? Like you have to give in. You have to let go and accept what is coming to you. And the only way to do that is by being obedient and submissive. It's how it is. It's how this works.
Well, and why is that important? And it's like, just think about it. If you're at the point in your life where you need advice, you're at the precipice of your own ability. And what's beyond your own ability is the unknown. So you have to be able to literally, in your mind and in your actions, walk off a cliff.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to get the advice from the right person, because you have to, if you're truly trying to grow, that means you're going into the dark. You're going into places, your mind, your experience, your body, none of it's been before. And that's why it was so important that Jen and I reached out to Chrissy and Pat about this. Oh, they bought a car, big deal. It's like, it's a huge deal.
Yes.
Because this is bringing us back to a cycle of habits and beliefs and things that we did in the past that got us into financial trouble. The familiar was to just go get the truck because that's what we wanted. We have the credit, we have the down payment, blah, blah. We could, the familiar, the untested part of who we are is to just go get the dang truck. You earned it, right? You didn't have a truck for 2 years. Now you get the truck. But it's like, we needed advice because we've taken the time to get to know ourselves, that we to truly know what our own limits are. And our limits is the temptation to go back to who we are. That's the limit. And so we have to break those limits. And that's why we absolutely had to reach out. We had no choice to reach out, because you can't see your own mistakes when you're making a mistake, right?
No.
Trouble doesn't usually warn you, right? It's usually after the fact you made a bad decision. Do you realize you made a bad decision?
That's right.
You don't say, "Oh, I'm going to make a bad decision. Who cares?"
Yeah.
Actually, you do that a lot, but
Yeah.
I'm like, well,
so I take that back. So we had to do that to break the old habit. The habit was not asking people, that allowed us to give ourselves the permission to make bad decisions. So it wasn't about buying the car. It was about breaking the habit.
Yeah.
Where it risks us to falling back, right? There's always, like, it's in trading. You have good run, you make a lot of good decisions, and then something happens, and then you go
do something stupid.
You do something stupid, you fall into temptation to take that trade you know you shouldn't take, and then you lose all the money you just earned.
Yeah.
And this would have been the equivalent for us if we didn't reach out for help and actually be prepared to listen to what Chrissy and Pat would say on the matter. Because we don't want to hide anymore.
Yeah.
That is the biggest thing. One of the things that we know we had to break is hiding.
And there's a lot of people that do that.
Yeah. So what's going to happen? Like, down the line, all of a sudden, it's going to come out. Oh, I saw that picture. That's a new truck in the background. Then you're going to know we lied because we hid it, right? You're going to know that we went and did our own thing because we have a relationship. We have a business relationship. Why would you not share with someone you're going to go buy a car? It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Especially when you know our backstory, and then it comes out a month down the line, 2 months down the line, a year.
We got some TRX or something.
Yeah. Well, I think what would have really caught me off guard, like, let's say you went and you bought a truck. Not that I would hold it against you. I don't want to say that. But, like, I think what would catch me is we just had a conversation, and it would have been like a podcast or two back where you were talking about, like, you're due, you're ready for it, right, for a new vehicle, but it's like you don't want to go back down that road. And then if you wouldn't have talked to Chrissy or reached out or anything, right, and not that what you guys were going to buy was crazy or fucking wild. It was a pretty rational decision to begin with, but there was a way to definitely do it better. And I think that's where Chrissy kind of came in and maybe showed you guys that like, well, you could do this, right? And then you're going to save yourself almost half the money, and you're still getting exactly what you need. And it's pretty fucking badass, right? Like, it's a sick fucking vehicle, right? And it's half the price. You're getting something that actually is comfortable. It's not like the base layer truck that you were going to get that is fucking way overpriced, right?
Probably 50,000 miles to afford it.
Yeah.
Silly or
a
high mile.
Exactly. So it's like, I think that's the only thing. It's like, if you guys would have went out and you got some, like, fucking wild vehicle, it would have been like, what the fuck? Like, what did you just said this like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, man. Right.
And then what would have that done for the trust?
Yeah. Well, I would have had to have, like, called you on that and just been like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
What are you doing?
But then what does that tell you about my character?
Exactly.
Because that's a big deal. 5 years down the line, you're always going to remember Adam and Jen chose not to share that with us, to ask for advice, and to just bring us in on it so we have the opportunity to comment.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Just
whether they take the advice or not, it's like, hey, man, are you sure about this? You're financially ready. You're not just jumping the gun. Like, if you say you're good, then I know you're good. But, like, you've thought this through. Like, you're not just like, hey, I want a truck, right? Like, it's like, no, they have a reason for this purchase, and it makes sense. Like, the other vehicle starting to fall apart, it's just going to start costing them in the end with fucking maintenance bills. It doesn't make sense anymore. It's like, no, you do need something newer. You're good. You haven't done anything wrong. Fucking amen. Right? Like, but where people really fuck up is like what Adam and Jen used to do it too. I think everyone has. They hide it, right? Because they don't want to deal with the bullshit. That's always like, that's your answer and that's your way out. Oh, I don't want to deal with. Maybe you fucking should deal with it. Maybe those people are jumping down your throat for a fucking reason.
Exactly.
Like, wake the fuck up. Now,
Yep.
it depends, right? Like, if you're surrounded by a bunch of fucking vultures, and there's a lot of you that are. I used to be surrounded by fucking vultures. Everyone I knew was a fucking vulture, right? They would just do things and say things because, or hang out with you or befriend you for honorable reasons, right? Like, we've all had friends like that. Well, that's almost everyone you know. Like, that's how they are. That's how the majority of people are. Shitty to say, but most people are not worth your fucking time. And when you actually realize that and you start cutting these fucking vultures out of your life, you'll realize that. And I didn't want to stray off that angle, but that shit fucking gets me wild. But these people, as long as they're not that, those people are trying to help you, right? They're not just telling you not to buy it because they're jealous. There are people out there like that because they don't want to see you succeed. They don't want to see you in a new vehicle. Their lives are shit. They want to make sure your life is shit. But as long as those aren't those types of people, and they are trying to jump down your throat, they're jumping down your throat for a fucking reason. And maybe it's time you start listening, right? Like, and that's what it is. I just think that like, people just, they have to submit to a coach or a person. Doesn't need to necessarily be a coach, but just like a friend, a person that has his shit together, and they need to just fully commit to that. Like, what that person says will have a dramatic impact on my decision making. Maybe not 100%, but it's going to be at a minimum 80-90%, right? You know what I mean?
Because the goal is to grow and to go through that unknown, right? And that's why that's so important. Is you can't grow without people's help.
No.
Usually, very few people can. Because you can try to go, but then that's how you make mistakes without their perspective and their experience and their ability to look at your life objectively from the outside. You know, you can look and be impartial about it and not be emotional about it if they're the right person.
Yeah, I think there's a big misconception. People say it to me quite often where they're like, well, you did it on your own. No, I didn't. I've said it 1,000 times. If it wasn't for Chrissy, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't. I would not have been able to do this on my own. I could have got myself pretty far, but I think ultimately I wouldn't have been in the position to be able to do it. I probably would have ended up on the street. That's where it was headed. And if it wasn't for Chrissy and her decisions and her stepping in when she needed to step in, it wouldn't have happened. So did I do it on my own? No, I've never said I've done this on my own. That is a crazy statement, right? Everybody needs someone to turn to and to help, like for them, like to receive that help. You have to get help from someone, right? And it's like, if you don't have that person in your life, there's avenues that you can explore where, again, there's a lot of coaches out there. Now, I'm not big in like these life coach people.
Life coaching,
because a lot of those people, if you dig deep into their life is a fucking disaster, is what it is. Like, they're posting their life and every vehicle they own is fucking leased, or it's not even theirs. It's like a friend's, or they're in a car lot, or the house that they live in, it's an Airbnb. It's fucked up. Like, those people they need to bring back fucking public hangings as far as I'm concerned. And like, to go back to like social media and stuff like that, because Jen was talking about that and I was going to say something, but it's become so acceptable. It's ingrained in our culture now. Fake it till you make it. Fuck that. Fuck you. That's gross. That's dishonorable. It's dishonest. Fake it till you make it. If you really think about that and how gross that statement is, When you have someone that is making money off of someone and they are faking it until they make it,
Yeah, that's
again,
gross.
they should bring back public hangings, tar and feather these motherfuckers. It's gross. But it boils down to, again, are your eyes open enough to distinguish who can actually help you and who is just taking from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that has to do with self-work. Because again, someone that has worked on themselves can spot that shit. If anything, if there's one reason, even just one reason to start getting into self-work, working on themselves, trying to get better, trying to produce a better mentality, it's that. To be able to spot the bullshit. And that's one thing that we do in Trick Trades. And I get hit up on messages from a lot of members that's kind of like a residual effect of Trick Trades is people can start sniffing out the bullshit, so to speak, because we look for it on the charts, plus all of the mentality lessons and speeches that I give. I think that's one of kind of the residual things that happen at Trick Trades is you start to notice who's real and who isn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
agree with that.
and that's what I'm saying when it comes to like a coach. There's a weird disconnect when it comes to day trading and traders wanting to go into a service because they're against services for whatever reason. Well, I understand why. I get it because there's a lot of bullshit out there. But if you can't spot who the real motherfuckers are and the bullshit and the frauds, number one, you haven't been around long enough. Okay, I get that. It happens. I think we all do it. I was victim of that too. I get it. I lasted like 2 weeks in that fucking service. I'm probably more like a week until I was like, fuck this guy's full of shit. Or you're just not working on yourself enough to be able to sniff that out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you can't spot who's being honest and genuine with you, all you need to look back, like social media is great for history. It's a great history lesson. You can go back and yeah, there might be some things that pop up where it's like you don't agree with something that person said, but are they being honest and genuine for the last decade on social media? If the answer is correct, then what you see is what you get. They're constantly changing and they're chameleons. They have a chameleon-like behavior. That should be a big red flag. If they are always smiling, never get pissed off, they never show any emotion other than what would draw you in, they're full of shit. Period. People cannot be, they're guarded, right? And I know we're straying off a little bit, but I think it's important because it comes down to who you should be receiving advice to. And there's always a few people that I name, and I say this for a reason. I name those names for a reason because those types of people will never give you the straight, honest truth. Why? Because it would affect their business. For me, I would have a tendency to gravitate to the one that shoots straight and sacrifices the number of members for the sake of honesty. Now, I could play the nice guy. I could lie to you all, and I could play the nice guy, and I could say things that would never make you uncomfortable, never make you upset, never polarize. But I couldn't live with myself. I couldn't go to sleep at night because then I'm being dishonest.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, that's an important quality of a coach. Now, it's not being an asshole for the sake of being an asshole. Because there's a lot of those out there too that are just like, it's like, why would you even say that in that situation? It's fucking crazy, right? It's like almost shock value. Circus. Like, do you want circus? No, I don't want circus. I just want the truth. I think that's like a big thing. You really need to search and you need to be very discerning with the people that you're looking for help. Because at the end of the day, let's say you stumbled upon Trick Trades because you're looking for a service, right? A trading service. And maybe you didn't realize that you'd be getting yourself involved with a coach, someone that takes that coach and educator, like really serious. It can come as a shock at the beginning. I get that, right? Especially if you're not used to being someone that gets called on their bullshit or their lies or their whatever. But if you take that the right way, like, oh man, like how fucking great would that be? You know, I've said it 1,000 times. It's like, man, I would have fucking killed for an opportunity like that to work with someone like that. But that's just me. I know a lot of people, they like to be lied to. See, I don't. I just want the truth. And it can be hard and uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, you can never fault that person because it's the truth. Right?
Well, and that's just that statement right there. People like to be lied to. They don't realize, they don't know what wakes up says, I want to be lied to. And this is why it's such a trap. This idea of advice is so important to say, do I want advice that gets me to the truth? Or do I want advice that endorses someone I go to endorse the very thing that I want to do? I just want someone else to tell me it's okay to do it. Like you're looking for permission to do something. And usually when that happens, you know in your heart you shouldn't do it. But if someone else validates it, then you can say to yourself, oh, well, so-and-so said it was a good idea, so I'm going to go do it anyways.
Yeah.
And that's why I think people almost instinctively might choose out the wrong person for advice.
Yes.
Because they want permission to do what they want to do anyways, but they know they shouldn't do it. So like we can very easily subconsciously seek out bad advice. It's that immediate gratification syndrome that is so easy to fall into. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I see it all the time with the one guy that I'm always saying is smiling at you wearing pineapple sweaters, man. Like he'll never say anything to ruffle your feathers. That should be a big red flag. It just should be. And it's like people think I'm attacking him because it's competition. No, there's no competition. If I was in a competitive space where I was competing with these guys, then I would lower myself to doing those types of things. If it was competitive like that, and it's not, It's not about that. I want to work with people that truly want to change. I want to change people's lives. And it's like, that should be a red flag when someone will never be mean. Well, it's the wrong way of putting it, but never say a mean thing, right? How people would perceive mean. It's not mean, it's just the truth, right? Where it's like, I want to change people's lives.
Right.
That's just not like some sort of bullshit statement. That's what I'm doing here with Trick Trades. Like, that's my goal. That would be the main objective. It's like, if I cannot get them, because let's be honest, not everyone can become a day trader. At some point, maybe some people will tap out for whatever reason, right? Just like being honest here. And that's another thing. Nobody would say that. It'd be like everyone's going to be successful in my service. It's not the case, right? But even if they can't, and there has been members through the years that tapped out, they realized day trading is just not for them. They can't do it, whatever, for one reason or another. But what they do say is, you still changed my life. You still opened my eyes. That's the goal. That's the fucking goal. Because now he or she has the tools to maybe pursue something else where they are suited. Isn't that worth the price of admission on its own? I think so. Where else can you get someone that can set you straight and put you on your path, right? Like, I think it's something that's just like really overlooked. And people should really start taking this shit serious. You know, we've done lots of videos where we can see where the world is headed. And think about if shit really hit the fan, who would you surround yourself with? Are you going to be able to sniff out the bullshit? Now that could turn into a life or death situation. It's a very different situation now, isn't it? Right? Like, and I know that's talking like a major what if, but at the end of the day, it's not out of the realm of possibility of happening. So it's like, people really need to start working on themselves. They really do, and start looking in the mirror. I think that's about it. You guys got anything else you wanted to add?
Really the only thing that I wanted to add is whenever, people are looking to get advice from someone, make sure that they're not either in the same situation that you're in.
Yes.
I know a lot of people, and I think this even came up on one of the Ascension podcasts, where it was like, Jackson wanted to talk to one of his friends about stuff. And it's like, well, where is that person in life? It's like, you don't want to just have like I always say like a bro chat with somebody that's in the exact same situation.
Yeah.
And I know with me, I realized that several years ago, I was just kind of talking about some of the financial difficulties that I was having, or we were having as a couple. And this person's answer was, well, you should divorce Adam, and just, you could find somebody else, you're still young and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I was,
That's not a solution.
Lord.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. You're divorced, you're live alone and not really happy. So why am I going to take your advice? I was just completely floored, but it's like, if I would have listened to this person, my life would be very different.
Yeah.
It's just like, there was no working it out.
Yeah.
She's like, well, get rid of him and find another one.
Yeah.
I'm
Just
like,
fold,
what?
just tap when things get hard. Right. Like,
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so just be careful, make sure that if you're, like if you're having a problem with a relationship that you need to talk to somebody about, don't go talk to somebody that has unsuccessful relationships. Make sure you go, what, this person has been married for 30 years.
There you go.
That's the person I need to talk to. They've been through a bunch of crap,
Exactly.
So let me go talk to this person instead of somebody that's been divorced 4 times or whatever,
Exactly. Absolutely.
So just make sure that you do that. Cause I was, obviously I learned that lesson really quickly, because I'm just like, why am I even talking to this person about this? So
Exactly.
if you're hanging out with a bunch of loser alcoholics and you want to make it in life, don't talk to them.
No.
Because you'll just get the same level of thinking that you're already at. And then, like I said, that's when you start just getting these bro chats where it's not going anywhere. You're just like,
it's an echo chamber of nonsense.
Exactly. So if you're stuck with something, which is why you're asking for advice, seek out somebody that's already got what you're after.
Well, yeah, it would be in the exact same respect of like being in a hole literally 40 feet down, and you turn to the idiot next to you that dug the hole with you, and then saying, how are we going to get ourselves out of this? It's the same thing, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, think about that situation and actually like physically put yourself in a hole 40 feet down in the ground looking up, and you got fucking Timmy beside you. And you go to Timmy, hey, Timmy, how are we going to get ourselves out of this? Well, I think if we keep digging.
Yeah, let's keep digging.
Right? Like that's the level of craziness that people are subjecting themselves to. They don't realize it, because that is obviously a very extreme example. But a financial burden can be that extreme example, because it's no different than being in a hole. You're still in a hole, right? Mm-hmm. So who are you going to turn to? Are you going to turn to Timmy, or are you going to turn to fucking Sally up there? And Sally's looking up there and she's got a rope in her hand. She's doing this. It's like, all you got to do is ask, right?
Yeah.
Throw me down the rope. See how easy that was? Like, fuck, man. Like, and that really is how easy it is. But are you worthy of Sally's rope? Are you worthy of Sally's advice that's going to actually get you out? Because if you're not, and you've wasted Sally's time a bunch of times, you're the boy who cried wolf 1,000 times, she may not throw down that rope. So it's a good thing to start getting your shit together to make sure that when you need those Sallys in life, they're around for you.
Yeah. Well, and just the last thing on that, and this is probably some of the most important thing, it's like, say thank you.
Yeah.
And be extremely grateful. And because what thank you does is it means you received. Mm-hmm. And so without saying thank you, you miss a part of the receiving of the gift that person is giving you. And so you have to be grateful, and you have to say thank you, and you have to mean it, because those words and that action brings that deeper into your body, so that you can then do the most important thing of this whole conversation is take action.
Yes.
Take real action, no matter how uncomfortable it is. Have discernment and decide that it's good advice, and then go for it, with gratitude in that action.
That's a good point.
That person who gave you that gift will be able to have joy in their life, because they know that they helped you. Yeah. And it just enriches everything.
Exactly. And there's been so many times where it's like, I've helped someone, and then there's not even a thank you at the end of that. And I'm not doing it for a thank you, but it really hits you where it's like, oh, I'm never helping that guy again. Like, he can't even at the very least, it's not even a thought that comes in his head to say thank you. Yeah. It's crazy, but it happens a lot, man. And anytime I've helped Adam, or they've always said thank you. And that's why no matter what comes up, I'll always be there, always. And it's like, to not do that, not kind of fulfill that loop, right? Mm-hmm. And to not say thank you, you're really cutting yourself off. Because generally people that are in those positions to really give you that advice or even help, sometimes it's not just advice, it's just help. That person will never leave you without a roof over your head or food in your family's stomachs. It just wouldn't happen, right? Because that person that you're relying on or turning to for advice or help is most likely an honorable person that understands what that means. So to not fulfill that loop and say thank you cuts that loop. That loop it'll never be made again. Never. And there's tons of people I've turned my back on just because of something as simple as a thank you. Lots of people. Yeah.
Because you have no way of knowing that they received your gift.
Of course. Yeah.
All right. Your advice is a gift from your soul.
Yeah.
And if I don't say thank you, as far as you know, I didn't receive it.
And it's
so why are you going to keep giving?
It's a very small payment for that type of help.
Yeah, no
is what it is. Yeah.
Because it's not just about you.
Yeah.
The person who's giving, their life, they experience joy and happiness and richness. And
that's what they get out of the deal. Like, that's what they get out of the deal is it's like, I know what I did made a difference. Mm-hmm. And it's like.
And they appreciated it.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, to say thank you, it's like, okay, that fulfills that loop. That's good. That's what I wanted to hear. That's it. It's small. It's such a small little payment, but it means so much, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you can't put a price on when somebody receives that advice, they go through with it and it helps and they say thank you. You can't put a price on shit like that. There's no amount of money out there that you just cannot put a price on that. So that's all you got to do. And there's a lot of people that they forget that last little part and then they wonder why that person is never there again for them. Right. Mm-hmm. And then they generally will turn that person into and vilify that person. Oh, I fucking asked for help and you fucking left me high and dry, left me on red, didn't even respond. Yeah, there's a reason for it. There is a reason for it. There's always a reason for it where that person finally said, fuck that guy. I'm not helping this guy again. And that's what it comes down to. Yeah. So a lot of great points were made. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Adam. Great episode for those that are actually going to listen and pay attention. So have a great day, guys. Have a great day. Adios.
Thank you, everybody.